Admiral Dae-jung stood on the bridge of the UNS Phoenix and watched the stars through the wide windows. He had been doing this job for 20 years. His dark uniform was crisp and clean. His face showed no emotion, but his mind was always working. Today felt different. He could sense it. A young officer ran up to him. Her face was pale. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the Galactic Council. They're broadcasting it to every human ship, every colony, every station at the same time." Dae-jung nodded slowly. "Put it on screen." The main screen flickered to life. A tall alien appeared. Her skin was purple and covered with small scales. Her eyes were golden and cold. This was Ambassador Velthara of the Krillian hegemony. She spoke for the 17 species that controlled the Galactic Council. "Humans of Earth and all your colonies," Velthara began. Her voice was smooth but threatening. "The Galactic Council has watched your species for 127 years. We welcomed you into galactic society. We shared our knowledge. We allowed you to trade and expand. But now we see a problem." Dae-jung crossed his arms. Around him, the bridge crew stopped their work to listen. "Your species grows too fast," Velthara continued. "Your technology advances too quickly. This creates risk for all peaceful species in the galaxy. Therefore, the Council has decided that humanity must pay tribute. You will give us 30% of all your resources. You will give us complete information about your faster-than-light engines. You will give us control of 12 of your military outposts, and you will allow Council officers to oversee all your military actions." The bridge was silent. Someone dropped a data pad. It clattered on the metal floor. "You have 30 days to agree," Velthara said. "If you refuse, the Council will take corrective action. This message is not a negotiation. It is an order." The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the communications officer turned to Dae-jung. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from all our colonies. Earth, Mars, the Outer Rim settlements. Everyone got the same message." Dae-jung walked to his command chair and sat down. He pressed a button. "Get me Director Hyejin. Tell her it's urgent." 10 minutes later, a woman's face appeared on his private screen. Director Hyejin ran human intelligence. She was in her office on Earth. Behind her, Dae-jung could see walls covered with star maps and data screens. "I saw the transmission," Hyejin said. "I've been expecting this for 3 years. You knew?" Dae-jung asked. "I suspected. The Council has done this before. 23 times in the last 1,000 years. Each time they found a species that was growing strong and independent. Each time they demanded tribute. And each time that species is no longer free today." Dae-jung felt cold. What happened to those species? Some surrendered immediately. The Council took control slowly. Now they are servants, not equals. Others fought. The Council crushed them. Either way, they lost their freedom. Hyejin leaned forward. "But we are not those species. We have been preparing." "Operation Quiet Dawn," Dae-jung said quietly. "Yes. We need to meet. All senior commanders. Prime Minister Sung-ho needs to make a decision." 6 hours later, Dae-jung stood in a secure conference room deep inside Earth's command center. Around a long table sat the most powerful people in human space. Prime Minister Sung-ho sat at the head of the table. His hair was gray and his face was lined with worry. Next to him was Director Hyejin. Across the table sat Captain Min-soo, a young pilot with sharp eyes and a confident smile. Also present was Counselor Ji-won, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. "They're not bluffing," Ji-won said. She looked tired. "I've been at council meetings for 5 years. I've seen how they work. They already have a fleet gathering near our border. They were planning this before they sent the message." "Then we fight," Captain Min-soo said. "We have 200 warships. We have more than that," Hyejin interrupted. She placed a data chip on the table. "Much more. For 127 years we have been building in secret. We knew this day would come." She activated a hologram. Numbers and images filled the air. Everyone stared. "We have 2,400 warships," Hyejin said. "They're hidden in asteroid fields, inside gas giants, in systems the Council thinks are empty. We have weapons the Council has never seen. We have alliances with 8 species the Council keeps oppressed, and we have been watching the Council's every move for decades." Prime Minister Sung-ho studied the hologram for a long time. Finally, he looked up. "What are our chances if they attack?" "If they attack with their enforcement fleet, we will win," Dae-jung said. "The question is what happens after. Do we want to start a war that will spread across the galaxy?" "We didn't start this," Min-soo said. "They did. By threatening us, Sung-ho nodded. I agree. But we need to be smart. Director Hye-jin, how long until their fleet is ready to attack? 3 weeks. Maybe less. Then we have time. Sung-ho stood up. Here is my decision. We will not respond to their message. Not a word. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Prepare our forces. Activate Operation Quiet Dawn, and send no reply to the council. No reply at all? Ji-won asked. None. We will answer them with silence. Sung-ho looked at each person. For 127 years they have lied to us. They pretended to be our friends while planning to make us slaves. Now they will learn that humans do not surrender, and sometimes silence speaks louder than words. The meeting ended. As everyone left, Dae-jung stayed behind with Hye-jin. Do you think silence will work? He asked. Hye-jin smiled slightly. It will confuse them. They expect us to beg or surrender or try to negotiate. They have never received complete silence before. It will make them doubt. And doubt makes enemies make mistakes. Dae-jung looked out the window at Earth below. Somewhere up there, the council was waiting for humanity's reply. They would wait a long time. 5 days passed, then 10. Humanity sent no response to the council's demand. The silence was complete. On Council Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Velthera sat in her office and stared at her communication screen. She had sent 15 messages to Earth, 15 messages to human colonies, 20 requests for diplomatic meetings, all ignored. Her assistant, a young Krillian male named Tae-hyun, entered the room. Ambassador, the High Council wants a report. They're asking why the humans haven't responded. I don't know, Velthera admitted. She felt something she hadn't felt in decades. Uncertainty. Every species responds. Always. Some beg for mercy. Some try to negotiate, some surrender immediately, but they all respond. Maybe their communication systems are damaged, Tae-hyun suggested. No, our sensors show human ships moving normally. Their colonies are functioning. They received our message. They're just not answering. Velthera stood and walked to her window. Outside, the towers of Council Prime reached into the purple sky. This is deliberate. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic station near Council Space, Councilor Ji-won attended another boring council meeting. She wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around her sat representatives from all 17 founding species. They were arguing about trade routes and mining rights. Normal business. But Ji-won noticed something. The council members kept glancing at her. Their conversations would stop when she walked past. They were confused. Maybe even worried. After the meeting, a Mandorian ambassador approached her. His name was Kyung-soo, and he had always been polite to humans. Counselor Ji-won, may I speak with you? Of course, Ji-won said with a smile. They walked to a private balcony. Kyung-soo looked uncomfortable. I don't understand your people's silence. The council expects a response to their request. Request? Ji-won kept her voice light. I thought it was called an order. Or was it a threat? Kyung-soo's face changed color slightly. His species did that when embarrassed. The council is concerned about galactic stability. I see. And how many other species has the council been concerned about? 23, I believe. Where are they now? Ji-won's smile didn't reach her eyes. Don't answer. I already know. They're servants, working in council mines, building council ships, growing council food. Kyung-soo said nothing. They both knew she was right. Tell the council something for me, Ji-won said. Humanity doesn't have a response because humanity doesn't negotiate with threats. When the council is ready to speak to us as equals, we'll be happy to talk. She walked away, leaving Kyung-soo staring after her. Across the galaxy, Captain Min-soo flew her stealth ship through the darkness of space. She commanded Ghost Squadron, 12 small vessels that the council didn't know existed. Their hulls absorbed scanner beams. Their engines left no heat signature. They were invisible. Target in sight, her co-pilot Jae-sung said quietly. The council enforcement fleet. Wow. Through the cockpit window, Min-soo saw a massive gathering of warships. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They floated in formation near the edge of council space. Just 2 jumps from human territory. The ships came from all 17 council species. Some were huge battleships covered with weapons. Others were smaller but fast and dangerous. They're not waiting 30 days, Jae-sung said. No, they never planned to. Min-soo activated her recording equipment. Get everything. Ship types, weapon configurations, fleet positions. Command wants complete intelligence. For 2 hours, Ghost Squadron circled the fleet. The Council ships never detected them. Minsu's ship passed so close to one battleship that she could see aliens moving behind the windows. They had no idea she was there. "Captain, I'm picking up Council communications," Jae-sung said. "They're talking about attack plans." Minsu listened to the translated messages. Her face grew hard. "They're planning to attack in 20 days. Not 30. And they're not coming to accept tribute. They're coming to conquer us completely." "Those liars," Jae-sung said. "The whole tribute demand was fake." "Of course it was. They do this every time. Demand tribute, then attack anyway. That way they can tell other species that the victim refused to cooperate." Minsu set course for home. "Let's go. Admiral Dae-jung needs to see this." On Earth, Director Hai-jin worked in her secure office. Screens surrounded her, showing information from across human space. She was activating Operation Quiet Dawn piece by piece. Every day, more military units moved into position. Every day, more hidden weapons came online. Every day, humanity prepared. Her assistant, a young woman named Bo-ra, brought her a report. "Director, all colony worlds report ready. The defensive platforms are active. The fleet is assembled. We're just waiting for orders." "Good." Hee-jin studied a map of human space. Red dots showed Council fleet positions. Blue dots showed human forces. There were many more blue dots than the Council suspected. "What about our allies?" "All 8 species are ready. They're just waiting for the signal. When we move, they'll rebel against Council control." Hai-jin nodded. For years, human agents had been secretly meeting with oppressed species. They had shared weapons, technology, and plans. The Council thought they controlled these species completely. They were wrong. A message arrived on her priority channel. It was from Captain Minsu. Hee-jin watched the recording from Ghost Squadron. Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened on her desk. She opened a communication to Prime Minister Sung-ho. His face appeared on screen. "Director? The Council fleet is moving. They'll be here in 20 days, maybe less." "Then we have our answer," Sung-ho said. "They never wanted tribute. They wanted submission, and when they thought we would refuse, they decided on conquest. Should we send a warning? Try to stop the war?" Sung-ho was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. "No. We tried peace for 127 years. We followed their rules. We acted as friends. And all that time they were planning to enslave us. Our silence continues. Let them come." On day 15, the Council sent their final message. It appeared on every human screen, every ship, every station. Ambassador Velthara's face was cold and angry. "Humanity, your silence is taken as refusal. The Galactic Council has been patient. We have given you time to respond. You have chosen defiance. Therefore, the enforcement fleet will arrive in 15 days to bring your species into compliance. Resistance will be met with total occupation. Surrender will be accepted. This is your last chance," the message ended. Across human space, billions of people waited for their government's response. It came quickly. A simple statement from Prime Minister Sung-ho appeared on all official channels. Just 3 words, "No, not ever." Then silence again. But now the silence had changed. It was no longer the silence of uncertainty. It was the silence before a storm. Fleet Marshal Thexnor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. He was a Mandorian, tall and covered with thick gray fur. His forearms rested on the command console as he watched his fleet prepare for jump. Around his ship, 3,000 Council warships floated in perfect formation. This was the largest fleet the Council had assembled in 50 years. It would be more than enough. Humans only had 200 ships according to Council intelligence. This would be quick. "Marshal, all ships report ready," his tactical officer said. "We can jump to human space in 3 hours." "Good." Thexnor pulled up records of past Council enforcement actions. The Diluvian Collective had surrendered after 14 hours of battle. The Zephyrite Union had given up without fighting after the Council destroyed 1 military station. Humans would be the same, perhaps easier. They were a young species, soft, unprepared. "Marshal, we're receiving a communication from Council Prime," the communications officer announced. Ambassador Velthara appeared on screen. She looked tired. "Fleet Marshal, the High Council wants confirmation. You will offer surrender terms before attacking?" "Of course," Thexnor said smoothly, "though I doubt they'll accept. Their silence shows defiance. Perhaps their silence shows something else, Velthara said quietly. But then she shook her head. Never mind. Proceed with your orders. The Council expects human submission within 1 standard week. The communication ended. Thexnor smiled. 1 week? He would need only 1 day. On the diplomatic station, Counselor Ji-Wan sat in her private quarters and packed her belongings. The Council had asked all human diplomats to leave the station. It was for their safety, they said. Ji-Wan knew better. They didn't want witnesses when they attacked. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Ambassador Kyung-soo standing there. He looked ashamed. "Counselor, I wanted to apologize," he said. "I didn't know. About the previous species. About the lies. I believed the Council's version of events. And now?" Ji-Wan asked. "Now I've seen the real records. The ones they keep hidden. The Council has been doing this for 1,000 years. Every growing species, every independent voice, they crush it. I'm sorry," Ji-Wan studied his face. He was telling the truth. "Thank you for your honesty. But it's too late for apologies. Your people's ships are part of the fleet coming to conquer us. I know. I just wanted you to know that not all Council species support this. Some of us are sick of the violence, but we're afraid to speak out." "Fear is a powerful weapon," Ji-Wan said. "The Council has used it well. But fear only works until someone stands up and says no." She finished packing and left the station on the last human transport. As her ship pulled away, she looked back at the massive structure. How many species had been deceived there? How many had signed treaties they didn't understand? How many had trusted the Council, only to be betrayed? On Earth, Admiral Dae-jung met with his senior officers in the war room, deep beneath Earth's military headquarters. The room was filled with holographic displays showing every human ship, every defensive platform, every weapon system. But there was something else. Something the Council didn't know about. "Show them," Dae-jung said to Director Hyejin. Hyejin activated a new display. Suddenly, the hologram was filled with blue dots. Thousands of them. Ship after ship appeared on the display, hidden in asteroid belts disguised as mining stations concealed in the atmospheres of gas giants. Captain Min-soo whistled. "I knew we had hidden ships, but this is incredible." 2,400 warships, Hyejin said. "We've been building them for 50 years. The Council thinks we spent our resources on colonies and trade. We did. But we also spent it on this." "How did we hide them?" an officer asked, carefully. "We registered them as civilian vessels. We built them in secret shipyards. We never gathered them together until now. The Council's spies saw what we wanted them to see. A peaceful, unprepared species." "And weapons?" Dae-jung asked. "Something new. We call them quantum missiles. They use quantum entanglement to appear inside enemy ships. Shields can't stop them because they never pass through the shields. They simply appear inside the target." The room was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Council's shields, their primary defense, would be useless. "There's more," Hyejin continued. "We have allies. 8 species that the Council keeps oppressed. We've been arming them secretly. When the battle starts, they'll rebel. The Council will be fighting on multiple fronts." Captain Min-soo leaned back in her chair. "We're not just defending ourselves. We're starting a revolution." "Yes," Dae-jung said. "But let's be clear. Many people will die, human and alien. This will not be clean or easy. The Council has been in power for thousands of years. They won't fall without a terrible fight." "Admiral," Min-soo said seriously, "did we have a choice, really? No, we tried peace. We tried cooperation. We followed every rule. And still they came for us. The Council doesn't want partners. They want servants. We will not serve." Prime Minister Sung-ho entered the room. Everyone stood. He waved them down. "Sit, please. I have just received word. The Council fleet is crossing into our space. They'll be at Horizon's edge in 6 hours." "That's faster than expected," Hyejin said. "They're eager to crush us quickly. They want to make an example." Sung-ho looked at Dae-jung. "Admiral, our forces are ready?" "Yes, Prime Minister." "Then give the order. Activate all ships, power up all weapons, and prepare to show the Council that humanity does not break." Dae-jung pressed a button on his console. Across human space, hidden ships received their orders. Weapons platforms came online. Defensive systems activated. The trap was set. On the bridge of the UNS Phoenix, Dae-jung watched the approaching Council fleet on his sensors. 3,000 ships coming to destroy humanity. They thought they were hunting prey. They didn't know they were walking into a trap. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Council fleet." His communications officer said, "Fleet Marshal Thexnor wants to speak with you." "Put him on." The massive Mandorian appeared on screen. He smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Human Admiral, I offer you one final chance. Surrender now. Accept Council authority. Your species will be spared." Daijung looked at him calmly. "No." "Then you choose death for your people?" "No," Daijung repeated. "We choose freedom. There's a difference." He closed the channel. Then he opened communications to all human forces. "All ships, this is Admiral Daijung. They're here. Show them what humanity really is." The Council fleet entered the Horizon's Edge system. They expected to find a few scared human ships. Instead, the system came alive with weapons fire. And the war began. The asteroid field exploded with light. What the Council thought were simple rocks suddenly activated as weapon platforms. Thousands of missiles launched toward the approaching fleet. Fleet Marshal Thexnor's eyes went wide. "Shields up," he roared. "All ships, evasive maneuvers." But the human weapons were unlike anything the Council had seen before. The quantum missiles simply appeared inside Council ships, bypassing shields completely. Explosions rippled through the Council fleet as ship after ship took internal damage. "How are they doing this?" Thexnor's tactical officer shouted. "Our shields are at full power." "I don't know." Thexnor stared at his display as 3 battleships exploded. "Get me damage reports." Then the human fleet appeared. Ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel all around the Council formation. Not 200 ships. Not even 500. Over 1,000 ships materialized in perfect attack positions. On the bridge of the UNS Phoenix, Admiral Daijung watched the battle display calmly. "All ships begin attack pattern Delta. Target their command vessels first." Captain Minsu's voice came through the communication channel. "Ghost Squadron moving in. We've got eyes on their flagship." Minsu flew her stealth ship through the chaos of battle. Around her, Council ships fired wildly, hitting each other as often as they hit human vessels. The Council fleet was too large, too tightly packed. They couldn't maneuver properly. "That's their mistake," she said to Jae-sung. "They thought this would be easy. They brought overwhelming force to crush weak prey, but we're not weak, and now they're tripping over each other." Ghost Squadron weaved between Council battleships. The stealth ships were small and fast. Council sensors couldn't track them. Minsu locked onto the Eternal Victory, Thexnor's flagship. "All ghost ships target the flagship's command deck. Quantum missiles on my mark. 3, 2, 1, fire." 12 missiles vanished and reappeared inside the Eternal Victory. Explosions tore through the ship's bridge. On his command deck, Thexnor was thrown to the floor as systems exploded around him. "Hull breach on the command deck," someone screamed. "We're losing life support." Thexnor pulled himself up. Blood ran from a cut on his head. "Transfer command to the secondary bridge." "Get me." Another explosion cut him off. The main screen went dark. Across the battle, human ships fought with perfect coordination. They moved in small groups, hitting Council vessels and then retreating before the enemy could respond. It was like watching skilled hunters take down a large, slow animal. But the Council had numbers. For every human ship destroyed, the Council lost 3, but they still had more vessels. The battle raged for 2 hours, space filled with debris and bodies. On the Phoenix, Daejung received a message from Director Heejin. "Admiral, Phase 2 is ready. Our allies are in position. Execute Phase 2. Daejung ordered. Across Council space, 8 oppressed species launched their rebellion simultaneously. On mining worlds, workers seized weapons and attacked their Council overseers. On colony planets, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. On military stations, allied species turned their weapons against Council forces. The Council's empire began to fracture. Species that had been controlled for centuries suddenly had hope. And weapons. Human weapons. In the Horizon's Edge system, Thexnor received emergency messages from across Council space. Rebellions. Attacks. Chaos. His fleet was supposed to be crushing humanity, but instead the Council's entire empire was falling apart. "Marshal, we've lost 40% of our ships," his second-in-command reported. The young officer looked terrified. "And we're receiving distress calls from Council Prime. They're requesting immediate military support." Thexnor stared at the battle display. 40% losses in 3 hours. It was impossible. His fleet was the most powerful force in the galaxy. How were these humans defeating them? The answer was simple. Humanity had been preparing for this fight for over a century. They had studied every Council tactic. They had developed weapons specifically designed to counter Council technology. And they had planned for this exact moment. "Order retreat," Thexnor said quietly. "Sir?" "I said retreat. All ships fall back to Council Prime." Now the Council fleet turned and ran. Human ships pursued them, destroying stragglers. By the time the Council vessels jumped to faster than light speed, they had lost half their original force. 1,500 ships gone. On the Phoenix, Daejung's crew cheered. They had won, but Daejung didn't celebrate. He opened a communication channel to all human commanders. "Well done, everyone, but the fight isn't over. They're running back to Council Prime. We're going to follow them." "Admiral," Captain Minsu said, "you want to attack their home system? That's their strongest defensive position, I know, but we can't let them recover. If we give them time, they'll rebuild. They'll come for us again, stronger. We need to end this now." Minsu grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." "Ghost Squadron is ready." The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed following the retreating Council forces. They arrived at Council Prime 6 hours later. The Council's home system was massive, with 3 inhabited planets and dozens of military stations. In orbit around the main planet, what remained of the enforcement fleet tried to form a defensive line. But more human ships were arriving. Vessels from all 47 human colonies converged on Council Prime. The humans didn't attack immediately. Instead, they surrounded the system and waited. Admiral Daejung sent a message to every communication channel in Council space. Not just military channels. Civilian channels, too. News networks. Personal communicators. Everyone in the galaxy would hear this. "People of the galaxy," Daejung began. His face appeared on billions of screens. "For 127 years, we have watched the Galactic Council. We have seen how they operate. We have discovered their secrets. Today we share these secrets with you." The transmission included everything: complete records of the Council's conquest of 23 species, documents showing how tribute demands were always followed by invasion, evidence of cultural genocide and forced labor, every crime the Council had committed for 1,000 years. Director Hyojin had spent years gathering this information. Now it spread across the galaxy like fire. "The Council came to us demanding tribute," Daejung continued. "They said it was for galactic stability. They lied. They wanted to make us slaves, as they have done to so many others. We refused, we fought, and now we stand at their homeworld, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The age of Council tyranny ends today." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings saw the truth for the first time, and many of them were angry. The Council chamber on Council Prime was in chaos. Representatives from the 17 founding species argued loudly. Some wanted to fight to the death. Others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to surrender immediately. Ambassador Velthera stood at the center of the chamber trying to maintain order. But it was hopeless. The transmission Admiral Daejung had broadcast showed everything. Every lie. Every crime. Every species they had destroyed. The truth was out, and it was destroying the Council from within. "We should have negotiated," a Krillian counselor shouted. "We should have treated them as equals." "It's too late for that now," a Mandorian representative said. "Human ships surround our system. Their allies are in open rebellion. Our empire is falling apart." Velthara raised her hands. "Silence. We need to decide. Do we fight or surrender?" "If we fight, they'll destroy us," someone said. "Their weapons are superior. Their tactics are better. We can't win." "Then we surrender and face justice for our crimes," another voice said. It was Ambassador Kyung-soo, the Mandorian who had spoken privately with Counselor Jiwan. "We deserve whatever punishment they give us." Several counselors looked shocked. Others nodded slowly. The truth was undeniable. The Council had committed terrible crimes for 1,000 years. They had believed their own lies for so long that they forgot they were lies. Across the galaxy, the 8 allied species were celebrating their freedom. On mining colonies, former slaves danced in the streets. On military stations, Council officers were being arrested by their own soldiers. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone expected. Director Hyojin coordinated the rebel movements from the UNS Phoenix. Reports came in every minute. 12 more species had joined the rebellion. 4 Council species had withdrawn their support for the war. The Council's military was fracturing as soldiers questioned their orders. "Director, we're receiving a transmission from Council Prime," a communications officer said. "It's Ambassador Velthera." She's requesting to speak with our leadership. He-Jin looked at Admiral Dae-jung. He nodded. Put her through. Velthera appeared on screen. She looked exhausted. Behind her, the council chamber was empty and dark. Admiral Dae-jung, Director He-Jin. The council wishes to discuss terms. Terms? Dae-jung said. You mean surrender terms? Yes. Velthera's voice was quiet. We cannot win this war. We should never have started it. Many of us knew this was wrong, but we were cowards. We stayed silent while our government committed crimes. Now we pay the price. Prime Minister Sung-ho joined the communication. Ambassador, you're right. Silence in the face of injustice is its own crime. But you're speaking now. That's something. What will you do to us? Velthara asked. Will you enslave us as we enslaved others? Will you destroy our worlds? Captain Minsu, who was listening to the conversation, spoke up. We should. They deserve it, perhaps, Sung-ho said. But revenge isn't justice. If we destroy them, we become what they were, and someday another species will have to destroy us, Momok. So what do? Minsu asked. Dae-jung stood up. We give them a chance to be better. But with conditions. Strict conditions, he turned to Velthara. The council will dissolve completely. All military forces will disband. Every oppressed species will receive immediate independence. The council treasury will be used to pay reparations to all victims. All council technology and knowledge will be shared freely with everyone. And you will help us build something new. A real galactic government, democratic, transparent, where no species holds permanent power. Velthara was silent for a long moment. And if we refuse? Then we destroy your military capability and leave you defenseless. You'll have independence, but you'll be alone, surrounded by species that hate you. That's not a good position to be in. No, it's not. Velthara looked at something off-screen. I'm told I have authority to accept these terms on behalf of what remains of the council. I accept. We surrender. Across the galaxy, beings who had been watching the transmission began to celebrate. The war was over. The council had fallen. 1,000 years of tyranny ended with those simple words. But on the Phoenix, nobody celebrated yet. There was too much work to do. We need to send peacekeepers to every council world, He-Jin said. There will be chaos. Revenge attacks. We need to maintain order. And we need to help the freed species build their own governments, Sung-ho added. Many of them have been enslaved for generations. They don't remember how to be independent. Plus, we need to deal with the Restoration Coalition, Dae-jung said. Not all council species will accept this. Some will try to rebuild the old order. Counselor Ji-won, who had just arrived from the diplomatic station, spoke up. Then we need to move quickly. We need to establish the new Galactic Assembly before the old guard can reorganize. Agreed, Sung-ho said. Counselor, you'll lead the Assembly's formation. Choose a neutral location. Invite every species, former council and former subjects. Everyone gets a voice, Ji-won nodded. I'll need help. This is too big for one person. You'll have it, Velthara said. She was still on the communication screen. I know I have no right to ask, but let me help. I know the council's systems. I know which species can be trusted and which cannot. Let me do something good with that knowledge. Ji-won looked at the alien ambassador for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, but you'll work for me, not the other way around. And if you betray this trust, there will be no second chance. I understand. Thank you. Over the next few weeks, the galaxy transformed. The council's military dissolved peacefully. 33 species declared independence. The Galactic Assembly began meeting on New Haven, a neutral station built specifically for this purpose. Captain Minsu led training missions, teaching former council subjects how to defend themselves. Director He-Jin transformed her intelligence network into a humanitarian organization, coordinating aid to species that had suffered under council rule. Admiral Dae-jung became Supreme Commander of the Combined Defense Fleet, a military force that included volunteers from 50 different species. And Counselor Ji-won worked day and night to build the new government. With Velthara's help, she established rules that prevented any species from dominating others. Every decision required consensus. Every species had equal representation. It was messy and slow, but it was fair. 6 months after the war ended, the first true Galactic Assembly session convened. 56 species sent representatives. They argued about trade routes and territorial borders. They debated scientific cooperation and cultural exchange. They disagreed about many things, but they talked. They didn't threaten. They didn't demand tribute. They didn't send warships. They talked, and slowly, they built something better than what had existed before. Admiral Dae-jung watched the assembly session from the observation deck. Prime Minister Sung-ho stood beside him. "We did it," Sung-ho said quietly. "We actually did it." "Maybe," Dae-jung said. "This is just the beginning. Building is harder than destroying. It will take generations to create real peace. But we gave them a chance. That's more than the council ever did." Dae-jung nodded. "Yes, we gave them a chance. Now let's see what they do with it." 1 year after the council's fall, the galaxy was a different place. The New Haven station had become the center of galactic government. Ships from dozens of species docked there daily. Trade flourished. Scientific missions launched to unexplored regions. Species that had been enemies for centuries were learning to work together. But not everyone was happy with the changes. In a secret meeting room on a former council world, 4 species gathered. They had been among the most powerful members of the old council. Now they were just one voice among many, and they hated it. "This assembly is a joke," a Krillian representative said. His name was Wanshik, and he had commanded fleets under the old regime. "Every species gets equal say. The primitive ones and the advanced ones. It's chaos." "The humans did this deliberately," a Mandorian added. "They destroyed the natural order. Species are meant to be ranked by their achievements. The strong should lead the weak. Then we rebuild," Wanshik said. Quietly, carefully. "We use economic power instead of military force. We make other species dependent on us. Eventually we'll control everything again." They called themselves the Restoration Coalition. They believed the old council was right and the new assembly was wrong. They began working to undermine the new government, using trade agreements and financial manipulation to gain influence. But Ambassador Velthara noticed what they were doing. She had changed over the past year. Working with the assembly had shown her what the council should have been. She had helped write the new laws and establish fair trade rules. She believed in the new system. She requested a private meeting with Councillor Ji-won, who now served as Assembly Secretary General. "The Restoration Coalition is a threat," Velthara explained. "They're 4 species who want to rebuild the council's power structure. They're using economic pressure to force smaller species into dependent relationships." Ji-won studied the evidence Velthara had brought. "This is serious. If we don't stop this, they could corrupt the entire assembly. I suggest we expose them publicly, show everyone what they're doing. The assembly was built on transparency. Let's use that strength," Ji-won smiled. "I like how you think now, Ambassador. Let's do it." At the next assembly session, Ji-won presented the evidence. The entire galaxy watched as the Restoration Coalition's schemes were revealed. Wanshik and his allies tried to defend themselves, but the proof was overwhelming. "You see?" Wanshik shouted. "This is why the old council was necessary. Without strong leadership, there is only chaos." But a small voice interrupted him. It came from a representative of the Diluvian people. "One of the first species the council had conquered. You call this chaos? We call it freedom. For 500 years, your strong leadership kept my people in chains. We mined your metals. We built your ships. We had no voice, now we do. That's not chaos. That's justice," other representatives began to speak. Species after species shared stories of council oppression. The Restoration Coalition members grew quiet as they realized they were alone. Nobody wanted to return to the old ways. The assembly voted to remove the coalition members from their positions and investigate their actions. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it sent a clear message. The galaxy would not return to tyranny. Meanwhile, Director Hyejin worked on a different challenge. Her humanitarian organization was helping rebuild worlds that had been destroyed by council exploitation. It was slow work. Some planets had been strip-mined for centuries. Their environments were ruined. Their people were traumatized. On one such world, she met a young Diluvian girl named Sora. The girl was orphaned when council forces had crushed a rebellion years ago. Now she lived in a refugee camp waiting for her world to be rebuilt. "Will things really be different now?" Sora asked. "Or will someone else just take the council's place?" Hyejin knelt down to look Sora in the eyes. "I can't promise that bad things won't happen again. Power corrupts. Someone will always try to dominate others. But here's what I can promise. We're building a system where that's harder, where transparency makes it difficult to hide crimes, where every species watches every other species. It's not perfect, but it's better. And if it fails, then people like you will fight to fix it. Just like we did." Sora thought about that. Then she nodded. Okay, I'll learn. I'll study. And when I'm older, I'll help protect what you've built. Hyejin smiled. That's all anyone can ask. Captain Minsu, now promoted to Commodore, spent her time training defensive forces from new member species. On a military training station, she watched young soldiers from 12 different species work together on combat exercises. Her second in command, still Jae Sung after all these years, stood beside her. Look at them. A year ago, half these species hated each other. Now they're sharing tactics and strategies. War has a way of bringing people together, Minsu said, especially when they're fighting against tyranny instead of each other. Do you think we'll need them? The combined defense fleet, I mean. Will there be another war? Minsu watched a Mandorian instructor teaching Diluvian cadets how to fly fighters. Maybe. Probably. The universe is a dangerous place. But at least next time, if there is a next time, we'll face it together. As if in response to her words, alarms began to sound. A priority message came through on the command channel. Minsu activated the communication. It was Admiral Dae-jung. Commodore, we have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected a fleet approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Unknown configuration. Very large. They'll be here in 2 weeks. Another invasion? Minsu asked. Unknown. But we need to prepare. I'm calling an emergency assembly session. All defense forces to stand by alert. The news spread quickly. A massive unknown fleet was approaching. The new assembly faced its first major crisis. Some species panicked. Others demanded immediate military action. The younger species looked to the older ones for guidance. At the emergency session, Admiral Dae-jung presented the sensor data. The approaching fleet consisted of hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. Their technology was different from anything in the database. They could be explorers. They could be traders. Or they could be conquerors. We should attack first, a Krillian representative suggested. Strike before they enter our space. No, Dae-jung said firmly. That's what the old council would have done. See a potential threat and destroy it. We're better than that. Then what do we do? Asked a Diluvian representative nervously. We prepare to defend ourselves, Dae-jung said. But we also prepare to talk. We send a greeting. In 300 languages. We tell them who we are and that we come in peace. And we wait to see how they respond. And if they attack? Someone asked. Then 56 species fight together to protect our freedom. But we don't start the war. We learned that lesson. The assembly voted. The decision was unanimous. They would prepare for war but hope for peace. It was a new approach for a new galaxy. 5 years had passed since humanity responded to the Council's demand with silence. Today, on the anniversary of that moment, the galaxy gathered at New Haven Station for a memorial ceremony. Admiral Dae-jung stood before a massive monument made of crystal and metal. It showed waves of sound frozen in stone, representing the silence that had changed everything. The monument's name was simple. The Answer. Dae-jung was older now, his hair completely gray. He had retired from active military service but still advised the assembly on defense matters. Beside him stood his old friends. Director Hyejin, now coordinator of the Galactic Humanitarian Alliance, Commodore Minsu, who trained the next generation of defenders, and Secretary General Ji-won, who led the assembly with wisdom and fairness. Also present was Ambassador Velthera. She had become one of the assembly's most trusted voices, using her knowledge of the old ways to help build something better. And there was Sora, the young Diluvian girl Hyejin had met years ago. She was a teenager now, studying diplomacy and dreaming of following in Ji-won's footsteps. 5 years ago, the council demanded tribute. Dae-jung began his speech. 73 species listened. They expected us to beg, or surrender, or fight stupidly and lose. But we did none of these things. We remained silent. That silence confused them. It made them doubt. And doubt led to mistakes. He paused, looking at the crowd. But silence alone didn't win the war. Preparation won it. For over a century we prepared. We built ships in secret. We developed new weapons. We made alliances with oppressed peoples. We gathered evidence of council crimes. And when the moment came, we were ready. Today we honor not just humanity's defiance but the courage of every species that stood up against tyranny. The 8 species who rebelled when we gave the signal. The council members who had the strength to admit their government was wrong. The billions of individuals who chose a harder path toward freedom instead of an easy path toward submission. Daejung gestured to the monument. This memorial reminds us that sometimes silence speaks louder than words, but it also reminds us that silence must eventually become action. We stayed silent not because we were weak, but because we were preparing to be strong. The ceremony continued with speeches from other species. Each told their story, how they suffered under council rule, how they found hope when humanity showed resistance was possible, how they built new lives in a free galaxy. After the ceremony, Daejung walked through New Haven Station with Hye-jin. The station was busy with people from dozens of species. Children played together, their species' differences meaningless to them. Merchants traded goods from across the galaxy. Scientists discussed joint research projects. Do you remember what you asked me? Hye-jin said. On the day we decided to stay silent. You asked if silence would work. I remember, Daejung said. I told you it would confuse them, make them doubt. I was right about that. But I was wrong about something else. What? I thought the silence was just a tactic, a way to buy time. But it was more than that. It was a statement. It said we wouldn't play their game. We wouldn't accept their rules. We would make our own path, Daejung nodded. Every species that joins the assembly learns that lesson. You don't have to accept someone else's definition of your worth. You can define yourself. They reached an observation deck overlooking space. Ships from 73 species moved in organized patterns, following the assembly's traffic control. It was orderly but not oppressive, structured but not rigid. It was working. What about the unknown fleet? Hye-jin asked. The one that approached us 2 years ago? Daejung smiled. Refugees. They were fleeing a catastrophe in another galaxy. We gave them sanctuary. Now they're part of the assembly. Their technology has advanced our understanding of physics by decades. We made the right choice then, preparing for war but hoping for peace. Yes, though I still maintain the defense fleet, just in case. The universe is large and full of surprises. They watched the ships in silence for a while. Then Hye-jin spoke again. Do you think what we built will last? Nothing lasts forever, Daejung said. Someday, maybe centuries from now, someone will try to corrupt the assembly. Someone will seek power over others. That's the nature of power. But we've built something that makes that harder. Transparency, equal representation, shared defense. These things create resistance to tyranny. And if tyranny returns anyway, then someone will resist. Someone will stand up and say no. Just like we did. Daejung turned to face her. That's our real legacy. Not the ships we built or the battles we won. It's the example we set. That resistance is possible. That silence can be powerful. That small peoples can defeat empires if they prepare and work together. A young man approached them. He wore the uniform of the Combined Defense Fleet. Admiral Daejung, I'm Lieutenant Jae-hwan. Commodore Min-soo sent me to find you. She wants to discuss the new defense satellite network. Daejung studied the young officer. Jae-hwan, you're Min-soo's son, aren't you? Yes, sir. She talks about you often. Says you taught her that patience is a weapon. Your mother learned that lesson well. She's a fine officer. Better than I was at her age. She also says the galaxy is safer because you chose mercy when you could have chosen revenge. Daejung was quiet for a moment. Tell your mother something for me. Tell her that every generation faces that choice. Power or principle, revenge or justice, fear or hope. We made our choice. Your generation will make yours. Choose wisely. I will, sir. As Jae-hwan left, Hye-jin smiled. He reminds me of us years ago. Young, idealistic, ready to change the galaxy. We were never that young, Daejung said with a laugh. But yes, he has potential. His generation will face challenges we can't imagine. New threats, new opportunities. I hope we've given them the tools to handle both. They returned to the memorial. The crowd had dispersed, leaving just a few individuals standing quietly before the monument. One of them was Secretary General Ji-won. She looked up as they approached. I was just thinking, Ji-won said, about the council's original message. They gave us 30 days to respond. We stayed silent for all 30 days. Then we stayed silent for another 15 days until they attacked. 45 days of silence. The longest diplomatic silence in galactic history. And when we finally spoke, we said just 3 words. Hye-jin added, no, not ever. Sometimes that's all you need to say, Daejung said. No compromise with tyranny. No negotiation with oppression. No acceptance of injustice. Just no, Ji-won nodded. And if someone asks us to compromise our principles again? Daejung looked at the monument, at the frozen waves of silence, at the symbol of humanity's defining moment. Then he smiled. Then we'll remind them what silence sounds like. The three old friends stood together, looking out at the galaxy they had helped reshape. Ships from 73 species passed by, each one free, each one equal, each one protected by the principles they had fought for. The war was over. The council had fallen, and in its place something better had grown. Not perfect, nothing ever is, but better, fairer, more just. And if tyranny ever returned, if someone ever tried to rebuild an empire, if anyone ever demanded tribute from the free peoples of the galaxy, they would find something waiting for them. Not submission, not fear, but the same answer humanity had given 5 years ago: silence. And then, when necessary, action. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Freedom must be defended. Justice must be fought for. And sometimes, the most powerful response to a threat is simply to refuse to play by the threatener's rules. Humanity had spoken through silence, and the galaxy had listened.